initiative.
Welcome back to Women of Color TV. And we are here at the Women of Color 28th year for the Women of Color Conference. And I'm so excited. I'm over the moon for this next guest, which is Dr. Valerie Sheares Ashby, who is the new president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And she's the first woman to serve in this role. She was the Dean of Trinity College of Arts and Sciences at Duke University and formerly chair of the chemistry department of the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. With her research group, she holds 10 patents. And she is now sitting with us today talking about this. She's been the past technologist of the year. Oh, they want me to look at the camera, and I keep looking at the TV.
Camera.
Look at the camera.
Okay. I love it.
I love it too. So we're looking at you, and what we're doing here is sharing with you this new position that Dr. Ashby has taken. Dr. Ashby, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I am so excited. I don't know what to do.
I so appreciate your kind encouragement. Thank you so much.
That's huge.
Thank you.
Let's back up and say, when you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Not this. So I should back up and say, so my dad was a math and science teacher. That explains a lot. It is huge. And my mother was an English teacher. And so I come from a family of teachers. But my dad and I were really, really close. And we played math games since I was 4 or 5 years old. And so I thought everybody played math games with their daddy. I didn't know there were other games.
Right.
And so math was never something that was a challenge for me. So I've always liked math and science, but I had no idea I was going to be a scientist, much less a chemist, and certainly not an academic leader in higher education. None of that.
Right.
At most, I might have thought about being a teacher, but probably like middle school or high school, as my parents had done. But I also am a little bit of a tomboy. I love sports of all kinds. And when I was 7 or 8, I thought, okay, I think I might be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader.
I love it. Right.
Because it was my brother's favorite team. And I thought, what else is there to do here? But I've always loved science and math. And my dad made that fun and easy. So it's not surprising, but president of anything,
it's huge.
It's huge. Even a few years ago, 3 years ago, I had no idea I'd be doing this.
That's exactly right. But to be in the Maryland system is huge.
Oh, I love the Maryland system. It is so good. In public higher education right now, there are very few places where you really can advocate for diversity and inclusion and belonging without any fear of anything, right? Like the Maryland has always been a state that really has embraced diversity and excellence through diversity. And to be in this public system that is so healthy, especially now when there are public institutions and systems all over the country that are heading in the opposite direction, it's a real gift, And I love the state of Maryland, by the way. I do.
And it is a real gift.
Yeah, it is.
That in the state of Maryland, that we would be able to usher through an African-American woman to the top leadership role at one of the most prestigious schools within that system.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And that is, there's a high level of intellect at UMBC.
Oh, for sure.
And standard has been set. And from my understanding, you know the trail to blaze for what your legacy is going to be. How do you do that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So, of course, Freeman Hrabowski is a legend in every way, right? In absolutely every way, and has been such a great supporter and mentor for me for years. As a matter of fact, I always tell the quick story that I met Freeman almost 10 years before I took this job. And I met him in his office because UNC Chapel Hill, I was there at that point. We were going to replicate the world famous Meyerhoff program.
Yes.
And,
fabulous.
Yes, and I had to go meet Freeman. First time ever, I'm sitting in his office, And after about 30 minutes of talking to him about organic chemistry and math, which, that's what we do,
And the two of you
the
are
two of
brilliant,
us,
so it was just
yes,
rolling off your head.
we had a good time. He looked at me and he said, "You're going to be a president one day."
Ooh, I
And at
love
that
that.
point, I was not in any version of academic leadership a decade ago. As faculty member, teaching, running my research group, best job of my life, I thought. Um, and he said that, and I'm sitting in his office, and literally almost 10 years later, I'm sitting in his office, occupying the office. So that's what I follow, is somebody who's a great mentor, and a great inspirer. And so it's exciting to me because, UMBC leads in so many ways, of excellence and diversity. I always say, we have the highest number, anybody in the country, we're number one of producing Black students who go on to get PhDs in the life sciences, math sciences, and computer sciences combined.
Yes.
Right?
That's huge, though.
It
Let's
is.
see those numbers one more time.
It
Because
is.
sometimes I don't think people really hear what you just said. We need to
Yes,
underscore that with a couple of exclamation points.
exactly. Number one in the country, right? And so I always say to people, if you have a child of color
Of color.
who wants to be in life sciences, who wants to excel and lead in the life sciences, in computer science, in math, send them to UMBC, right? Because we produce those students. We produce more students who go on to get PhDs. That means to become scholar leaders, creators in those disciplines. So it's really exciting to me to follow that legacy and to try to continue it. Uh,
But you're brilliant. So you came
oh,
out of brilliance
well,
because you wouldn't be there if you hadn't.
I-
You smile and say, "Oh, that's nice,
It's
but girl, it's gonna be
nice.
straight from here,
It is
right?"
nice.
We already know what brilliance looks like, right?
Okay.
But as we move forward, right, and we have all these young people, young girls
Yes.
looking like us,
Yes. Yes.
how do we do what your parents did for you?
Yes.
How do we create that infrastructure at an early age?
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So some people talk about that whole once you get to the middle school, you should be already clear.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. It definitely middle school, but people say we want to go in the pipeline and bring students along. If you start at high school, it's too late, right? Because if you have already embedded in your mind that you cannot do certain things, math, science, chemistry, by the time you start high school, you can't change that. It's very difficult to change, I will say that. Plus, you also need to have a strength in math. Like, it's hard to do science without being able to do math. And so starting that at the elementary, middle school level is really important. So one of the things I love about UMBC is that we are very engaged in our local community. We sit 8 miles outside of the city of Baltimore, and close to very poor and needy areas in education in Baltimore County, which is where we sit. And so we have our students, do tutoring of math. During COVID, our students did, I think, some 10,000 hours of tutoring to keep students, moving forward and to close that gap that they were seeing. And so it's really awesome because our students are diverse, right?
Yes.
Really diverse. So what happens is those elementary and middle school students see people who look like them early, who are not afraid of these subjects, who are telling them they can be successful, who are encouraging them. And that to me is a part of what we do, not just educating our college students, but reaching back into that pipeline. Some of these students, I was lucky. I was blessed, right?
Yes.
To have a mom and a dad. I'm not a first gen college student, and to have a dad who just loves science and math, and that's
Yes,
what he
I was just
did.
saying.
But you think about my students who come out of poverty or who are themselves first generation. They don't have parents who actually can do the math and science that they are learning. So it is critical for our college students, diverse college students, to give back. Like, we have a civic engagement, social justice, economic prosperity mission, right? That is what we say we're going to do. So we got to go back and get people who didn't have the privilege of having the encouragers and mentors that we had. So that to me is a part of, if you ask me what I want to do going forward, I want to do more of that, particularly in our community of Baltimore, where only 1 in 10 Baltimoreans who graduates from high school gets a college degree.
Wait a minute. Say that one more time.
1 in 10.
Wait a minute. Did you just say that?
1 in 10. It's 50% for the state of Maryland, which is about normal, but 1 in 10 in Baltimore. And you think about the city of Baltimore and some of the challenges, and then you think we sit 8 miles outside of that with, as you say, all those brilliant students who are themselves diverse. Like we actually can do something,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So I guess the other thing I'd say is that it's always interesting to me because all of my mentors happen to be men.
I love it.
They just
That's all right.
in
Get
chemistry,
that info.
yeah, well, and in chemistry, that's who was there, right? That's just who was there, and two of them are white men, right? Like so, they and amazing mentors to me. And what's so interesting to me is as I walk across my campus, how many women say to me how important it is for them to see me. And it's things that I don't even think about. Women say to me, women of color say to me, it matters to me when I look at you and I'm like, oh, you can have natural hair and be somebody's president. And I said, oh yeah,
Right. All
yes,
of
you,
that.
all of
All of
that,
that right there.
all of that. We want you to
Yes.
bring, including your brilliant mind.
Yes.
So it's surprising because I'm not accustomed to people saying, oh, it's important for me that you're there. But it's important. So many, and at a conference like this, over and over, I hear it. It's important to me that you're there.
It is important.
Yes.
You are a role model right here, sitting, and I'm so graced to have you in this chair. You are so brilliant. You've already won, I don't know how many awards already. But the most important thing is that you are so comfortable making those changes that need to be made for our community.
Well, I appreciate that. To me, it's not a choice. It's not a choice. I have a friend who's a wonderful friend who says to me all the time, oh, you've been given so much, you actually don't have a choice, right? And my mother would say, to whom much is given, right?
To whom
much is given.
Much is expected.
Exactly.
So, Mom, I said, thank you.
Yes, absolutely, right? Like that is exactly what this is. But also for me, it's just love. When I walk around this conference and see these young people, in my mind, I'm thinking, who are they? Right? You don't know who they are going to become. And your 1 or 2 words of encouragement might just keep them going or even help them imagine things for themselves that they couldn't have even imagined. Like, I didn't know. Like Freeman said to me, you're going to be a president. Right. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm a chemist. But and it's awesome to see it in these folks and then to speak it into people and see them take it in. They do. They do. Yes.
And you know why they receive? See, I already love you. You don't get rid of me that quick. But I'm telling you, your spirit is so wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
That people want to be around you. They want to work under you. They want to see the vision that you have.
Well,
you laid it out. You made that decision when you came here that I'm gonna be the best I can be. Yeah. And I'm gonna love on me some babies.
Oh yes, absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. Yes. Without a shadow of a doubt.
I'm gonna nurture them.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be nurtured with all of the work that you're doing.
Oh, well, I so appreciate that. I so appreciate it. It is a gift to me to be in the position to do that. So many people have, literally given to me when I was totally lost, no idea what I was doing. And they saw it and they thought, okay, I'm going to stay with you until you can see it for yourself. And they're still with me, right? My same 4 mentors are still with me. And they are even looking to see, now what, right? And so they're constantly there. And so it's a gift that I have that. So anybody, I'm constantly looking and thinking, okay, now who are you? And what do you need to hear about yourself that you might not be saying to yourself?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, I'm always thinking, what do you need to hear about yourself that you might not be able to say or not even know to say to yourself? And sometimes I'm trying to unsay some of the things that people are saying about themselves. I'm like, oh no, don't say that about yourself. That's not who you are. That's not all that you are. So it's a gift. It is such a, I tell people some days I think, okay, they don't pay me enough to do this because some days are hard.
It's work. It's
Yeah,
work.
it works. And then other days I say, oh, they don't, I can't believe they pay me to do this because it's joy.
And they pay you to do this because the expectation is that you're going to reach all of those challenges that you think
Well,
you'll have to conquer.
I hope
That
so.
you already have it in your spirit to do it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You already
I
have it in
received
your spirit
that.
to do it. Please
Thank
do.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I do.
You really, really
I
do.
do.
I like your spirit.
Oh,
You're a
thank you.
humble person.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I there's no reason why I am sitting in this position. Right? In my mind, I think it could have been anybody. And I look at anybody else who's really struggling and not have the resource, and I think that could have been me. It's just it's just that easy that that could have been me. So it feels like such a gift and a privilege that cannot um, I don't take it for granted, and I don't take it as, of course, I should have this, but
Right. Yeah.
no, anybody's situation could have been mine. I happen to have been born to these two people at the time when I was.
Right.
Yeah, it's just that simple. So yeah, yeah. So
Right.
I am very grateful.
So when we look at where you are and what needs to happen, me and this earphone having some time. I think I want to go back to my holding it. So when you sit down and you look at the moving forward and you have the population of young girls,
Hmm.
what do we need to do as family and community leaders, and how do we get them focused on a UMBC and the programs that UMBC has
Hmm.
to get them working in the right way, doing the steps
Yes.
to get over there? Because
Yes.
you gotta have some willpower and you ready to
Yes.
work to come to
Oh
UMBC. It
yes.
ain't no name,
No,
right?
no, no, no. I said I must have some of the smartest students I've ever seen, and they're self motivated. I mean, just brilliant learners, right?
That's
Like seekers. But you're right. So you said several words there: family and community. It really does. It may seem trite to people, but it really does take a village. Like it literally takes a village to produce one. And so, what we're going to think about, we're just starting off our efforts. I'm just starting my second year. So we're just starting to think about strategic planning and, what will we do? What steps will we intentionally take? And one of those is to really think about pathways,
Ah,
um,
yes.
and how to partner with our school system, Baltimore City schools, and how to partner, churches. There are all these places, community centers, Boys and Girls Clubs, United Way. There are all these people who are trying to do similar things. And we need to think about what our part is in that and where we are in that pathway. But also, to your point, you can't just walk into UMBC. Like you have to have been
You
preparing
have to
for
do the
that.
work.
Well, and also sometimes students don't even know what that means, right? Are you taking, the right courses and the right test and all these preparatory things that people who have parents who went to college know. Um, and even thinking about financial aid, right? Like how do you do that and how do you understand that? And parents don't understand financial aid. They're trying to eat.
Eat every day. Keep that
They're
roof.
just trying to eat, literally. And we're talking about, a 20 something $1,000 a year education. It doesn't compute. So for us, we are going to think about our strategic partnerships. There's several people already working. But how do we actually help students and families understand UMBC is possible for them? And then where do you start that walking down that path? And it is early. It is
So when you
absolutely
say
early.
early, so is that junior high? Is
It
that
is.
elementary? Okay.
I think you can do it in junior high school. I think that's probably as early. Now, we'll tell you, yeah, it is. One of the things that we do, which I love, we have a Sherman Scholars Program, which is all about education of young kids. And it's from one of our wonderful donors, Betsy Sherman, who herself, she was a teacher.
I love it.
And she wanted for us to make a difference in Baltimore City schools, Baltimore County, Baltimore City schools. So we have adopted an elementary school, a few, but we've adopted these schools and work with the principals. And one in particular, where we literally are having our UMBC students who want to teach, then teach in these schools.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so we also work with the teachers, to really try to help them change their curriculum, support them in any kind of ways possible. When I tell you, I visited a school that is in the middle of poverty, and you walk in that school and it is flourishing, not with resources, but the culture. Those students were supported, and every teacher had in the window where they went to college. Now, can you imagine that in an elementary school?
Oh, I love
So
that.
when I walked in the door, you can dream. So I walked in the door for one of our teachers who's teaching there. It has UMBC retrievers in the window. I walked in the door. She's standing there teaching. And when she says to her class, "This is Valerie Sheares Ashby, the president of UMBC," they knew what that meant.
Right. They weren't surprised.
No, elementary school.
shocked.
Exactly. She talks about college. They know where their teachers went to college. They started to think about it early. So that is at the elementary level. But the actual preparation, I believe, is really more at the junior high level for us.
Yes.
And so that will be important. But, people can get to you. It feels sometimes like it's not possible.
One thing that I wish that you would consider.
What's that?
Back in the day, I was at Columbia University at the Institute for Learning Technology, Institute of Urban and Minority Education.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a grant when Ron Brown was Secretary of the Department of Commerce.
Yes.
They came up with a report, Falling Through the Net. Larry Irby wrote that report. It's still up on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we did was we created all these community technology centers, and then got another grant that connected all of those technology centers. Now, when we talk about children don't have computers at home, they can't do the work, there's no internet, there's nothing for them to do. And I've said this several times to several people on my network. We need to create, every community should have at least 4 or 5 community technology centers.
I love it.
Children and their parents can go and use these computers and do their work.
Yeah, I love the idea. And so one of our partners will be Sonia Santelises, who is the CEO of the Baltimore City Schools. And just want to think with her and lots of folks about big ideas like that, because I love what we've already done, but in my mind I'm thinking for these kids who come to this school, these few hundred, but still they're important.
They are,
but then there's thousands, right? And the number is still 1 in 10.
They are. And the problem I have with all of this, when I was doing this at Columbia, this was at least 15 years ago.
Yes.
So we're still having this conversation, and our children can. My grandson will go to his room and use his computer and not even think about. My daughter will use hers, not even think about. And so, what do we do? How can they do their work? How can they do the research if they don't have the infrastructure? And I'm quite happy to hear that you all are being involved in the community.
Oh yes,
because they need thought leaders such as yourself to be able to get there, to help them get there.
Yes, absolutely.
We have some brilliance in our community.
Oh,
we have to bring it out.
Yeah, and so this is what I believe. So I have a thing, I should say, an unqualified thing about Black men. Okay. In our society, so first of all, Blackness, right? Global Blackness, right? Global Blackness is at the lowest, in spite of all the things going on in the world. We're still if you have a hierarchy of human value, which I don't believe in, but people have it, we're at the bottom.
Right.
And Black men are at the bottom of the bottom. Okay. Yeah. And so in our location in Maryland that is so diverse, so many men of color, especially in Baltimore County, Latino and Black, but Black and brown men who are being creative to make money.
Very.
The question is, how do we get them, those brilliant minds, into the formal economy?
Mhm.
Right? That's what we need. They are brilliant, right? They
Yeah.
are hustling. They're doing all sorts of things to make it. But
Mhm.
there's I'm thinking, okay, well, if you're that smart, what if, right? Like I know that like we need your brilliant minds. And the key for me is that the problems in the world can't be solved without them.
At all.
Like we need all the brilliant minds, the black and brown brilliant minds. We need your brilliant minds because if the problems could have been solved, they would have been.
It would have been a
They've
long time
already
ago.
tried it without us.
That's right.
So now
That's
they
right.
need us
Right.
to come in and right and help do this. So this is a thing for me. And when you talk about this, what do we need to do to scale, to think about those communities where we don't have what people need? I was recently on a panel this past week with Sonia, who I mentioned, and several other presidents who are in Baltimore, and some folks who are working on access and financial aid kinds of things. And when Sonia spoke, she said, what people expect K through 12 to do now is to be psychologists, to feed students, to take care of behavioral issues. I mean, you just go down the list. Everything that poverty has caused,
Right.
they expect it to be fixed in a
In a
classroom
classroom.
while you learn, right? And so that's why when we talk about this, we can't think we can come in there and I can't fix poverty, right? I can't do that alone. We can't address it alone, but together, it's really going to take a system of people to really think about what is our local context and how do we actually make a difference in these. Because, I mean, I keep thinking about families who literally, first of all, many are homeless,
Yes. Seriously homeless.
many are working poor. Now, that's the group that also we forget sometimes, that Alice group of people who are working and poor.
Right. 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 And they don't know what to do with any of that.
You're already going to work,
Right.
right? 40 hours or more a
Or
week,
more.
and you still poor. And then we come in there and say, oh, UMBC, you can do that. Like, so we got to really be thoughtful.
And sensitive to
Absolutely.
all of that.
Absolutely.
And too often I see people. I walk all over Baltimore.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Walk out. I had a very interesting conversation. I think you would appreciate this. I was walking up Broadway,
Mhm.
and it was getting dark, and they're doing all this work up there, right? And so this house had all these um, cement sticks or
Mhm.
pillars. They're all yellow, and I heard this gaggle of people behind me, right? So the spirit said, "Just stop." And so I stopped and leaned on those yellow
Uh-huh.
posts,
Uh-huh.
right? And they were, cussing and doing whatever and
Uh-huh.
whatever that the kids do,
Yeah, yeah,
yo,
yeah.
yo, 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 they
Yeah.
doing the thing. And as I'm walking, they get up there, they get up to me, and I said, "Do your mama and them know you out here? This
I
fight
love it. I
going?"
love it. That's what I'm talking about.
And they started screaming, laughing. They
Uh-huh.
were doubled
Yes.
over. They
Yes.
were doing the high five with the brothers, and they were
Right.
laughing. And so they said, what you doing out here, Ma? I said, I was walking until I heard all that noise back
Uh-huh.
there. I want to
Uh-huh.
make sure y'all all right. They said, we good, we good. And as they walked down, they had to go under the viaduct.
Mhm.
And you could hear them laughing in the echo
Mm.
going
Mhm.
back up that hill.
Yes.
And I want to share, that's one
Mm.
story. Here's the
Mhm.
second story, the black males that
Mhm.
we're talking about. I used to be the executive director for Alvin Ailey Dance Theater Foundation of
Yeah.
Maryland, and we
Yeah.
hosted that at
Yes.
UMBC.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Girl, there was a little boy sitting on the bleachers. Everybody else was in the gym.
Mhm.
So when I walked over to him and I said, why you sitting over here? Oh,
Yeah.
I've been going out there.
Yes.
And Miss Marsha, you always trying to make people laugh and trying to be funny.
Mhm.
I don't even see me living past 15.
And that's what I'm talking about.
And that's still
Mhm.
in my head. And you know
Mhm.
how long ago that program started at
Mhm.
UMBC, but
Mhm.
it's still in my head. I hear that child
Mhm.
echoing right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
if we have our 15-year-olds, 13, 14,
That's right.
15-year-olds thinking they aren't going to live past a certain, what
Right.
are we not doing as a community
Yes.
to change the trajectory of their
Yes.
lives?
Yeah, no, I am right there with you. Right. So this is where you have to. I heard you say the word sensitive. Right. There's so much humility in this. I don't live that life. Never lived that life,
Mhm.
and I can't fully understand it, but I see it.
Right.
Right. And I can't unsee it. I don't want to unsee it. Um, but just having to come all the way, like, and I don't mean down in a negative sense,
Oh
but I mean
no.
come
Bring it.
down,
You gotta
bring it
come
to,
off that loft.
yes, of where are people actually, right? So we don't know, just listening to you talk about that one child, we don't know who that child could be. That child might solve some of the worst problems in the
In the world.
world, right? Because I do believe that the complexity of your experience changes the way your brain solves problems, right? Which is why we need diverse thinkers, right? But
Yes.
that kid has seen some things.
Yes.
So when we
Yes.
start to talk about solving big problems, that kid has something to say that's going to be completely different than the way that you or I would
At
think about it.
all. It
Right?
has nothing related to what we're saying
No,
because the perspective is totally
it's
different.
going to be
And
completely different.
we don't even know where it begins because
No,
there's so many layers,
exactly,
right?
exactly,
There's so many layers. I'm just
exactly.
excited
Yeah.
that you're involved in the city. And
Oh, I love it.
it's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
huge.
one of the
It's
biggest
huge.
gifts that I received was a surprise, although that happens a lot for me.
So I'm sure.
The thing
I'm
that's
sure
surprising,
because
I'm
you
like,
love it
oh, of
all.
course, there it is. Okay, there it is. So when I was moving to Maryland, I've never lived in Maryland
Okay.
before. I'm a North Carolinian, and I thought, okay, I'm going to buy a house. And one of the reasons I wanted to buy a house is because a part of the way that I lead is high touch, right? I want people to come in my home and just know that I'm just like them, right? Like this just relax. We're not doing business. Just come in here, low key. Um, and I do that a lot. I did it a lot in my previous job, and I wanted to do it in this job.
Right.
So I'm looking around, and Maryland is complex, as you know. I mean,
Yes,
it's small but complex geographically and every other way.
yes.
Um, so I'm looking around neighborhoods. I'm like, I can't figure this out. I've got to figure out. I got to rent something before I can buy.
Right.
So I start looking for an apartment to rent, and I'm looking everywhere but in the city because as president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County,
Right.
I want to live in Baltimore County, or
Right.
but then I decided I could live in Baltimore or Baltimore County. I could get away with that. People love the city. We're 8 miles outside of it. We do
Yes.
have a commitment to the
It's
city as
close
well as
enough.
to the, yeah, it's close enough. Um, I started looking in the city and immediately found the place where I live, and I love it. That was the biggest gift to me because now I live in the city. Now I
Love
also
it.
say I don't live in the city. I
Oh, you
live
don't live in the
the
city.
city. I
What
live
are you
in.
talking about,
Oh
city?
no, we don't live. I
Oh,
don't live
that
in.
ain't the
That
city.
ain't the
That
city
ain't
I'm
the city.
living
That
in.
ain't
No,
the
no, I
city.
live in Harbor East on the inner harbor, a block
Oh,
off the water.
oh, I love it.
I mean, it's comfortable, but I
It
realize
is.
where I live, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
my church is in the city,
Yes.
and everything that I love and am engaged in is in the city. So I actually get to see real Baltimore.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's what
That's
I
huge.
love. I
That's
love
huge.
it. And I love it. People talk about all the things and problems, and I'm thinking, this is beautiful.
It is. I walk all over Baltimore,
It is.
literally,
Oh my
all hours
gosh.
of the day and night. I walk down to the water. I walk up to North Avenue. I
Yes.
walk over to Hampton. I
Yes.
mean, I just go
It's
see everything.
amazing.
It
The
is.
history is amazing, but the young people are extraordinary.
They are, and they need love.
Right. And this I was just the word love was in my head. I was thinking, I already love them.
Yes,
Right. And I think I love them even more because people assume who they are. And I'm thinking, you don't have a clue,
at all,
right?
at
Who they
all,
are or who they could be
at
or who
all.
they will be.
Right.
And, our job is to go in there and reprogram that,
And
right?
how do we harness them?
Whew, that is
How do
not
we
trivial.
harness them?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And all of those, so you're living in the path that I walk all the time, and so
Yes.
you've got to go through different communities
Oh,
to do
yes.
all of that, right?
Yes. Yes.
And as I was speaking about walking up the street and all of that, the issue really becomes if we care enough to even say something to them.
For sure.
right?
Right. Oh, for
And
sure.
they
I'm right
like
there
it when
with
you
you.
say hi to them.
I'm right there with you. I'm one of these people. So everybody's like, be careful in the city, all of that. Okay.
Right.
I hear it and I
Yeah.
understand,
Yep.
there's some sensibility around that. I have trouble walking past another human
And
being.
that's
And if it's a young person, whew, I struggle. I'm like, okay, I know people are protecting me, and I'm thinking, this kid is in my path for a reason. Right? I
right.
just don't. I mean, every person I'm sitting here talking to you today for a reason, right?
For a
There's a
reason.
reason, right?
There's a real reason.
Exactly. So I have that. But you talk about how do we harness that? One of the ways that we've done it, and again, it's pilot kinds of things, but I want to think about what scale means. But we actually work with youth. One of our programs that we have at UMBC is called the Choice Program. I'm not sure if you're familiar. We've had it since 1986,
Okay.
and thousands of young people have come through it. And these are young people, not UMBC students, but youth in the
Oh,
community
I love it.
who have somehow gotten caught up in the juvenile justice system.
Ah,
And what we've done is work with that department and have those students then come through the choice program to give them another opportunity. And so we've started these social entrepreneurship ventures. We have 3 of them right around the city of Baltimore, where they literally come and they run this business. They learn how to run this business. They work in this. There's one of them on the harbor there.
I love it.
Yes, and so there's one in at the UMB's School of Law. We have a coffee shop there that they run. They work at, and these are kids who, maybe not ever going to come to UMBC, right? And I don't believe everybody needs a college education. Okay, I don't believe that. But these are youth who, got caught up in something else, and we give them a way to really rethink who they are. And it's really about, who are it's not just giving them a job. It's like really working on like, who are you? Who do you want to be? What you didn't dream about being in the juvenile justice system. Like,
Right.
what if you had the
Right.
ability to dream or the
Right.
privilege of dreaming? What would it be? And we just celebrated with a group of the students, I call them students, a group of the young people at our business that's on the harbor, and they are running the place.
Oh,
Like,
I love it.
the employee, they were so proud to be. I have a job to come to, and some of them come back and mentor other students. And the beauty of that program is that we have, I think the rate is about 95% of the students who are in there do not commit another crime while they're participating in the choice program, which
That's
tells
powerful.
you, right? It tells you if you give people something else, that's not what human wants that to be their first choice. Right? It's not. You didn't choose. Who wants to sleep on the ground?
Don't nobody want to be out there in the cold.
Nobody. And young people do not want to be seen as criminals.
Right. At all.
No.
Because their circumstance didn't have anything to do with them from the beginning.
That's exactly right. Right.
Okay.
They were like mine. You see what I mean? So when you say you are humble, I'm like, no. I did not create my circumstance.
Right.
I was born into that circumstance, right? So I don't have any excuse.
At all.
None, right? So and they were born into their circumstance, and then it's up to us to think
help
about them differently.
That's right. And we have to.
Yeah.
First, we have to see them as human beings.
Without a doubt.
We got to start there.
Without a doubt.
You are a human being,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you deserve to live
Yes.
a full and glorious life.
Yes. Without a doubt.
Right.
Without a doubt.
We can't keep looking at it with these little tainted glasses.
Mm-mm.
We've got to look at the real, and we have to look at ourselves and our culpability of not changing their life.
For sure. Because I keep thinking, so what if that was me? That's all you got to do.
Right.
Like, because it is that possible, right? And, when people say, oh yeah, my parents didn't have anything, but they pulled themselves up by their own bootstraps and blah blah blah. Okay. But I really do believe that could have been me. Period. Right? I'm real clear about that could have been me. So then,
but for the grace of God.
That's it. That's it. So then I look at that and I think, okay, now what would I, and even if, what would I, how would I want somebody to treat me, right? Or if, even if that was my child, right? And I can't do anything, but if, would I want somebody else to come and treat my child like
Mm,
I would treat? So that's the way I feel about my students, right?
right.
I'm thinking, oh no, no, no. I will often call them my children, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter what age they are. They can be
Right.
45 coming back to get a degree.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I'm thinking, how would I want you to treat my child on their best day and on their worst day?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Right? On their worst day, that's when you're gonna find out if you actually love your people,
Right.
right? Because people are people, right? Humans have bad days,
Right.
and going to college didn't change that.
At all.
Right?
That is not going to be the indicator.
No, no, no. So it is that sense of, oh my gosh, just grace that has been given.
Mercy.
That's it, right? Like 100%. Because I also didn't do everything right, even with what I was given. There were times when my path could have gone a different way,
No question.
right? Like, and somebody just steered me back in, or, forgave me for that thing, and or taught me how to do it better. And it's amazing to me how many times I was saved, right? And people just think you just are, and I'm like, no, no, no.
I understand that concept,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I know I got some stuff back there that I
Oh.
said, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Right. For sure. For sure. For
Right.
sure. For sure.
Right.
That's it. And I try to actually tell people those things because they can read the resume.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it actually turns out that I always say this to young people in particular, but also to my faculty who read my resume and want to go, oh, wow. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
Mhm.
I tell people that resume is probably the most discouraging document
Mm.
that has ever been written about me. Because for people who think that you're special, that's the worst thing that can happen, is for somebody to think that I'm special, because that means they're not.
Mm.
And then
Oh, say that one more time.
so when people think you're special, that means that they're already comparing themselves, and they think they're not, right? So they can say to themselves, oh yeah, but you're special. So when students come in, for example, I love teaching. Organic
Clearly.
chemistry is my thing. And it's hard, right? It's hard for a lot of people,
I
but
didn't take that class.
it's just because of what people do themselves in their heads, right? But when students come in and say, oh, you won't understand why I don't understand, because they assume I've always understood, right? So they come in and they say, oh, I know this seems stupid to you, that I don't get this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Let me tell you all the times when I was lost, like I didn't know what I was doing academically, right? Like, and so that to me is what I say to them. And so for me, it's really important. It's really important to say back to students and to people, like, no, let me tell you where I messed up. Let me tell you where I was completely confused. Let me tell you what course I struggled in, so that they can actually start to see we're actually not that different, right? Like somebody was there for me,
Yes.
but we are not that different. Yeah.
And we have to be able to say that out loud,
Yeah.
so that people can understand, and they won't. Sometimes I think people see people such as yourself in your position, and they feel diminished,
Yes.
versus having a conversation with you
Yes.
and learning more about how to be better, or
Mhm.
how to be all the things you wanted to be.
Mhm. Mhm.
And until we feel comfortable
Mhm.
knowing
Mhm.
that there are people who love us
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and want us to be successful.
Yes. Yes.
That little young man at 15 years old,
Right. Exactly.
I don't see myself living past 15.
Yeah.
That will be in my brain, girl, for the rest of my life.
Yes. I can. It's in mine. It is now in mine. Right. Right.
And
And-
it's huge.
Right. It is. And then you wonder why people do what they do. If you think you've got from now until 15,
It's over.
it's over.
So I can
Do
give
it,
up
and that's what. There it
end up
is.
in jail, end up dead, whatever, because it don't matter.
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
not going to be here.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the
Yeah.
potential that
Yes.
we thought we knew,
Mm-hmm.
they have discarded it.
Completely.
Right?
Completely. Completely.
But we need to have UMBC, and you at the helm.
Oh, well.
I'm not that girl.
Yeah,
Straight up,
I appreciate you.
I'm not that girl.
Uh-huh.
But we need you at the helm to
Mm,
think outside that box, to think
mm,
outside those city lines,
mm,
to
mhm,
be able to see the possibilities
mhm,
that these young people have
mhm, mhm.
available to them through your efforts.
Yeah, well,
And I applaud you.
well, thank you, thank you. It is. I tell people I have been every job I've ever had has been my favorite one at the time. Yeah,
Right,
which is pure privilege,
right, right, right,
pure privilege to be able to
right.
say that. Um, but the gift to me, I, I, I don't know of a better life than helping other people live their best life.
Right.
Like, there's what other
People don't
life?
even know that they could have a
They don't
best
even
life.
know what it is. They don't even know what's possible. I mean, literally, I'm still discovering what's possible,
I love
right?
it.
Because people are showing me things that I couldn't have imagined. Um, but there is no better day for me when a young person feels encouraged, feels valued, feels visible,
Yeah.
uh, feels loved,
Yes. Yes.
and has some sense of hope
Yes.
that they can do things that they could not have imagined. Like, and
Oh,
that's actually my job
that's
description,
your
right?
job.
Right? Like
That's your job,
what?
girl.
Like what other job is there that I would want? So it is
And I
amazing.
can't think of a better person being out there now but you.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you,
Thank you.
thank
That
you.
is,
I appreciate it.
I'm grateful that you had the opportunity and the
Oh,
time
oh,
to take this interview. And I'm so excited that
thank
you're
you,
there.
thank you
I am
very much.
so excited that you're
Well,
there.
I appreciate it. I
It's
appreciate it.
huge
Thank you,
on so
thank you.
many different levels.
I appreciate it. I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate
Well, we're
you.
gonna do the best we can. So,
Well, I'm here for you.
thank you, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I'm sorry. I always look at the wrong place. Dr. Valerie Sheares Ashby, president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Thank you, ma'am, for
Thank
your
you. My
time.
pleasure.
And
My pleasure.
congratulations on your new post.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.